Hello everybody, I'm Chris Spalton, and thanks for John to have me along. Like you said, I came up with a good strong title for my talk, I thought, and then I thought I'd better build a talk around it, so hopefully that matches up with the expectations of it. So I'm a senior UX consultant at Foolproof. I'm also a sketch noter, and as it lits out, I'm also a hypocrite, right? It's this talk, I'm not up here to say I'm an expert in this sort of stuff. I'm a bloke on a journey, and I thought this journey was worth sharing, and it's like, I'm not there yet. There's going to be things in here that if you follow me already, you'll be like, well, he's telling us not to do that, and he's done that, or he's telling us to do that, and he doesn't do that. But like I said, it's as much for me as a learning process as it is to try and hopefully come away with one of you guys having some ideas about some stuff about you can do to help like raise your profile and stuff. So the title of the course talk is, obviously, you're going to die and no one's going to give a shit. The chances are one of these two people will be responsible. So, you know, fair enough. It's like you never know what might happen. And kind of, it's a bit freeing, I think, to realise this. Steve Jobs had a famous quote that he was like, once he knew he had cancer, he was freer to explore different ideas. And I think that's a really important thing. We are all going to die. It could be these guys. It could be a Nazi UFO frying you on the moon. But it's you know, it's important to, I think, to realise that, and then it frees up your mind because you care less what people think about what you're doing, essentially. The inspiration for this came from this awesome book, Show Your Work. It's been a really important book to me. It's got lessons in it, and he also wrote a book called Steal Like an Artist, which is good, because I've kind of taken some things and stolen like an artist and put my twist on them. But it only costs like £8. You can read it in a train journey, and believe me, I know, because we spend a lot of time at Foolproof on the trains. And it's really worth getting. It's really fun and impactful. And basically, I've taken this, reading this is one of the most important things I've ever done, because it's like, okay, I have got something to say and I can put my ideas out there. And it was really inspiring, the lessons that Austin Kleon, the guy Austin Kleon, spoke about here. And he's also really active on Twitter, writes blogs and stuff. And I suggest you follow him because he's really inspirational. I think that was right. Basically, in my conversations with people, whether that's my mates, my colleagues at Foolproof, or other people that I chat to, there seems to be like 5 reasons why people don't feel like using social media to share their stuff. One is that their work isn't good enough, and they think that if they put it out, someone will laugh at them, or you know, it will look a bit crap compared to what, you know, there's always that touch of you see stuff that's inspirational, but then also I'm never going to reach that, so why should I bother? I'm not allowed. We all work under NDAs. We all work, you know, if we do commercial work for clients, there's sometimes where you sign an NDA and you can't show the work there, or there's commercial sensibilities with competitors and things like that. That crops up quite a lot in our work. I just don't have the time. We work at an agency, we're busy, we're travelling a lot, we're working late, we've got deadlines and stuff like that, and it's like people do, you know, you go home and sometimes you just want to chill out and don't want to be sharing stuff or doing extra work and things like that. Also, it comes up with, well, I'm not a creative person, no one cares what I do. I really think this is a sad kind of phrase to use, because like, everybody is creative, you've all got ideas, whether it's about how the council can improve taking your bins away or something, that's still an idea. The only difference between that person and the creative person is the creative person puts it on paper or does it in some way. Everybody's got ideas that they're processing all the time about every aspect of their life. And I find it really a shame when people say I'm not a creative, so I'm not a creative person. And also just not knowing how do I start and how do I start getting myself out there. So basically I'm going to go through these things in order and tell you some lessons I've learned and give you some examples of opportunities that they've given me. So the first one is, if this works, is I'm not good enough. The thing about that is, and that concern that I was talking about is, it's not actually about being good enough. You have to be findable. If your work isn't out there in this day and age, if it's not online, it basically doesn't exist. I've got a mate, Dow, who is an amazing artist, produces really cool stuff, and he was out of work for ages, and he was just drawing away in his bedroom, you know, and no doubt that helped him sort of with his well-being while he was out of work and a bit depressed about that sort of stuff, but no one's seen it, and there's like, he's got this whole archive of amazing work that no one will ever see because he's like, oh, I don't do social media. And it's like, well, that's all well and good. You could have earned a living doing that. Like, your housemates are only going to buy so many because they can look at them anyway. I bought one print off him, but I'm not necessarily going to go, do you know what I mean? He's my mate, I'll see it when I go around there. And it's like, he's got a career there waiting that he just hasn't taken advantage of. So it's important to get your stuff out there, I think. If it, like I said, if it isn't online, it doesn't exist, basically. And you don't need to be a genius, right? Which is handy because you're not one. right? It's a simple truth, right? People like Einstein and Mozart and Leonardo da Vinci, they come around every 100 years or however often it comes. The chances, there might be one in this room, right? But the rest of us, normal folks, we're not geniuses. So don't worry that you have to be the best person at it. You just have to find a genius. I don't know if you know these guys. These guys are bronies. These guys are grown men that dress as My Little Ponies and they hang out together and have a wonderful time, right? Somewhere along the line, who was the first man in history ever to say to his mate, by the way, I like dressing up like a My Little Pony. And his mate was like, you're right, me too. And they developed a scene from it, right? And it's like, if these guys can find a group and a community out there, then if you're interested in typography, right, you can. Essentially, it comes down to sharing the things you like, and eventually you'll find somebody that likes the same things as you, and you can build a community, and that's how opportunities happen. Creativity is always a collaboration anyway. No one's got any truly original ideas anymore. It's like every idea it's taking a bit from this, and a bit from this, and a bit from this. And if you've got a community of people where you can trade ideas of, like SyncNorwich or Sync the City, you throw a group of people in who are interested together and the ideas bounce off each other and that's how you come up with something new. You're not just going to sit at home and just have this spark of inspiration that's mind-blowing. It just isn't going to happen. And coming back to sort of like, whether you have to be the best, right? I'm not the smartest UXer on my desk at Foolproof, yeah? Let alone the entire company. And I'm getting pretty known for my sketching. I'm not the best sketcher in my own living room. My girlfriend is way better at drawing than I am. But the difference is I put things out there and I contribute to conversation. So I'm more well known than most of the people at Foolproof around the world or however that works because I contribute. And I'm definitely known more as a sketcher than Sarah is because she doesn't contribute anything. She'll draw a lovely picture and no one sees it. So it's all about the contribution and that's why you don't have to be the best. It's all about embracing being an amateur. Amateur gets a real rough, a real rough sort of, people think amateur is bad. Amateur actually comes from a French word amateur, which is a French word, which means lover of. And it's like, people say, oh, he's a rank amateur, well, that looks really amateurish. It's like, that's totally cool because it should be, because it means you're a lover of what you're doing. And it's, you really should embrace that, I think. Once you get over that, then the world becomes your oyster a bit more. So, this is a quote, I forgot to tag the bloke's name on it, but he's a Japanese philosopher dude. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, and in the expert's mind, there's few. And if you know what you're doing, you're just like, that's the solution straight away. Whereas if you're an amateur, it's like, I can do this. I make stupid songs up at times, right? And I'm not bound to, it has to be in this key, and it has to be in that key. I'll stick a sample of a cow mooing in there. Because I've got a chicken crowing, it'll sound like some redneck hillbilly thing, right? And it's like, that's totally cool because I'm an amateur, no one's expecting me to be a professional musician. But you end up with better things as a result. And the difference between being crap and being good is just a series of steps. And the only way you're going to get to that is to be crap at the start, and it's like to actually enjoy the process of learning rather than expecting to be good at the far end. That whole orange arrow on the last one actually just is this part of the whole journey, because the rest of it is doing nothing and doing something. And I've got another quote by a not so famous philosopher, but maybe one day will be, that is, if you're doing something, you're already fucking miles ahead of someone who's not, so do something. That's for me.
That's brilliant, I love that.
It's like the DIY outlook. People who know me will know I'm into my bands and stuff, and it's like these guys here, these are some of the most influential sort of underground American bands ever, even big bands like Nirvana and Kiss and Sonic Youth and Soundgarden and stuff. Like, these guys didn't even have the internet, but they had a message to get out there. They didn't worry about making the perfect poster. They were like, we want people to come and see our gigs and we've got ideas that we want to share, so we're just going to make it and put it up there. And even like the Kiss logo, that's the very first poster that Kiss ever had for their first gig poster. And Ace Frehley drew that in a Sharpie. And now that logo's on, it's even on coffins, it's on hot rods, it's on lunchboxes. It's one of the most famous logos, in the music world. And it all started from him going, well, we need to get our ideas out there, so I'm just going to draw as a logo, and that's going to become our logo. And sort of taking this thing on board, it's like the Obama Hope poster. That's one of the most iconic images when we still had some hope. For years, right? But he didn't just turn up. Shepard Fairey didn't just rock up and email the president and be like, can I do your poster, right? It didn't happen. He started off by making little stickers like this that he was posting around Providence and San Francisco, and eventually they became viral in the world before the internet. It caught on, and then he developed into like the Obey clothing brand and the screen printing brand and stuff like that, and eventually got picked up by the president, right? And that's the journey from being an amateur at something to becoming super good and pro, and like the amount of awareness that he's got there. And I'm not saying I'm going to get there, but I do a comic book about my dad. So this is the adventures of my dad as the last remaining eel catcher in the Fens. They're all true stories. This is when he got involved in the Tony Martin shooting, if you remember that. Right? And it's just like, I had an idea. I've been telling these stories down the pub to my mates for years, and it was like, these need documenting. And I don't know how to write a comic book. I've never written a comic book. So, but okay, I'll have a go, yeah, and then there you go. You've got Golden Eel, you've got Tony Martin, I'm quite pleased with that one. You've got my dad with a ferret in his head, which is also used to happen. And I've moved this on now into stuff like, I've got stickers about it, I've got a mini clothing range, so I've got hipsters from Shoreditch to Singapore wearing t-shirts based on my dad. This sticker here is on top of Germany's highest mountain, there's stickers in Mexico, and it's just like, you know, I was kind of influenced by the Obey Giant stuff, but it's just a case of doing stuff and not worrying about, I don't know how to design t-shirts, but it's like, right, well, I can slap a logo on a t-shirt, and if someone buys it, awesome, right? And maybe it will get that big. And even if this actually then led to one of the best opportunities I had last year, which was, I spoke at the Reasons 2 Creative Conference in Brighton, which is a really well-respected creative conference. Is Steve here? I haven't seen Steve today, but he was there. And Michael, you were here, you were there, right? Mm-hmm. And like, this is me talking to like 300 people with a 20-foot high comic book about my dad, right, on the biggest screen that's ever been. And that would have never have come if I'd have just said, oh, I'm not good enough at writing comics. You know, I'll keep these ideas. It's something that I could do, but I'm a bit nervous to start with, and it's ended up with that. And it might not be the best comic in the world, right? It's not The Dark Knight, or it's not The Watchmen or anything. But that's fine as well, because 90% of everything is shit. It's like, whether you're talking about films, music, books, TV, like celebrity crap, whatever, right? And they make a living out of it, yeah, and it's terrible. So if someone, they can make like someone can write a terrible book, I can write a terrible book. And like, you know, I will do. Hopefully it won't be terrible, but it doesn't so matter if it is. It's like, why should I worry about it? He peddles absolute, you know, inane crap non-stop and does really well out of it. So maybe I can contribute something to the music world, right? Like, I'm not going to be top of the charts, I wouldn't want to be, but how do I know anyway? How do I know if it's shit if I don't share it out there? That's the way. The only way, it's like, this talk, I was nervous about this talk, I hope it's alright, The only way I'll know it's good or shit is if I've done it. So I think you should try new things. Like, creating something stupid is still a creative act, and coming back to this thing of like, you know, well, I'm not a creative person. It's like, just write it down and do something with it. Just put it out there, write it down, gather it up in a notebook. You know, I'd like to think that when the aliens sift through the sort of charred remains of Earth, that they might find one of my notepads and be like, well, you know, then I'll be, to the aliens, I'll be some crazy thought leader, visionary. No one else has got their ideas out there, and I did, you know, so even that's all right. And it's like, try different mediums and stuff. Like I said, I make silly songs, I do all sorts of stuff, right? It's like, vary your medium until you find the right thing for you. Like, it seems that drawing is my thing, and comic books and stuff, so that's cool. But yours might be YouTube blogs or whatever it is, you know, it's like, have a go at that because it's interesting and you think you could do it, so just do it and get it out there. Contributing is something is better than nothing. Also, this is actually quite a serious, important tip, is say you're a thing and then do the thing that thing does, and lo and behold, you'll be the thing. Like, when I put my very first sketch note on Twitter, that was when I joined Twitter, I was like, okay, I've started this thing called Sketchnote, maybe somebody will like to see it. I was like, right, what do I put in my bio? What do I put in my bio? It's like, well, I'll just put, I'm a sketchnoter. And then if I do the things that sketchnoters do, which is make sketch notes, I'll become a sketchnoter. And likewise, when I lost my last job before I joined Foolproof, I was out of work for about 6 months, and I was like, right, I want to work in UX, so I'm going to put that I'm a UXer, and then if I do the things that UXer does, I'll be one. And then I'm now seeing someone in Foolproof. There's a really talented photographer called Mike Cuss on Instagram. It's just Mike, Mike Kus. And I heard him talk about this kind of thing, and he was saying he was a really well-known designer, and he was like, actually, I want to be a photographer now. So he had designer and photographer in his bio, and he just swapped them round, and now he gets flown all around the world to take tropical pictures and all this sort of stuff. he kind of has the same point. He wanted the focus, whilst he already said he was both those things, he wanted the focus to be on photography. So that's what he did, and now he lives a life of writing, basically. Also, I think with bios, I did think this on the way over here, because I saw somebody who had, these views do not represent those of my employer. And that actually just sticks in my core a bit, because it's like, of course it fucking doesn't. It's like, if it did, or if your employer makes you do it, maybe they should treat you as like a human being. And it's like, of course, you've got your own point of view. But who knows? The other one is I'm not allowed. Like I said, we all have to work under like NDAs and commercial sensitivities. Obviously, there's competition there and stuff like that. And if you break that, you could get in a lot of trouble. You could lose your client. You could lose your job. You could, get in legal trouble even. So I think that also prevents people sharing stuff, and there's ways around it basically, and that's by thinking about your process, not the final product. It's if you come out of nowhere and produce, ta-da, here's the Mona Lisa, right? Some people, it's supposedly a masterpiece. It leaves me a bit cold. It's just a picture of a woman, right? It's like, so he's put a lot of work into that and launched it, and then I just think, oh, it's kind of meh, right? It's like, it's all right. So you might care about the final product, the audience might care, and your client might care that you've shared their final product before they gave you permission to. But actually, what you really care about, because where your work is involved and where you're making decisions and where you're passionate about solving the problems, is all these aspects of this. So the location that it is, the type of paint that they use, the colours that are used, the canvas that it's on, the tools that are used to put the paint on the canvas, the model and the pose she's in, the lighting and even the frame. They're all decisions that have had to be thought about and had to be shared, dealt with. And that's where your thinking is, and that's where your passion is. And other people care about all this stuff as well. So there's whole communities out there about different types of paints. There's whole communities out there about different paintbrushes and lighting and frames and stuff. So rather than just say, here's the thing, what do you think? Oh yeah, it's good, it's bad, whatever. It's like, actually, you could have sparked conversations about all of this and joined in with a community on any of these things. And that's how you build the stronger bonds, by talking about the work that's involved. It's also loads of bits of content. There's 8 bits of content there rather than here's a thing, right? And it was actually this website here that this also triggered this in my thought. This was about, I don't know when it was, last year, but Simply Health. We designed the Simply Health website at Foolproof. And I remember Luke saying, he was like, oh, we've done all this work, we worked on it for months, and I can't share it because we're under an NDA because they were doing a new brand. There was also another conversation when me and Pete had a little argument about whether this person is a logo, login icon, actually worked, whether we should have an icon of a person there, because it makes total sense that you'll log in with that, and how to go about it, right? And that, we had quite a debate, me, you and Luke at work, right?
Yeah.
So we could have spoken about, despite having the NDA over the final thing and the brand, we could have chatted about the logo. Is it the right kind of icon? Is the location right? Is the colour right? Does it make sense? Does it need a label? And they were all conversations we could have contributed to the outside world in, because there's a whole realm of icon design and resources and forums and stuff like that going on. And also with commercial sensitivities, like we work with a lot of banks, right? And we work with a lot of banks. And open banking's a thing, right, that's coming out. And we've done lots of work with people on that. And there was literally, it wasn't like I went from one room to the next room, but I was working with one bank on it, and they were like, right, problem A, we've got nailed, but problem B, we're really struggling with. Then like 2 days later, you go into the other room, and they're like, oh, we can't solve problem A, but we've got problem B completely nailed down. It's like, well, actually, what you're talking about here, this isn't going to distract anybody. If the idea is for open banking to help the consumer make better choices, then you could actually team up as the banking world and be like, this thing's coming out and it's going to be good, and you should try and do it. It's like, it's legit. We're not trying to steal your information, everything like this. But instead, because they're so, don't tell them that, it's top secret. It's like, it's not top secret because they're talking about it in the next room as well. It's like, why don't you just get together and have a chat about the stuff you can share? And then lo and behold, I think it came out last week, you turn on BBC News, it's like, open banking, no one knows what it is, da, 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 da. And it's like, whoever comes out with it first is going to get stitched up anyway, because no one trusts it, because they haven't taken time as an entity, the banking world, to explain it successfully to the customers so they're on board it. And work doesn't speak for itself. Like I said, you can just put the work out there, but if your work is an orange circle that you're really proud of, that could also be a sun, a moon, an orange, a football, or a pizza. So it's kind of like just, it's got no context to it, it's got no story to it. The interesting part of work, is that going to be that? So having an idea is cool, and you can share the idea, and having a final product is cool, because you can share the final product, but actually the interesting stuff is the hard work in the middle. So again, it comes back to that sort of share your process and where you're making decisions and thinking about stuff. It's like, show what you're working on right now. People might not necessarily like to see how a sausage is made if it involves like lips, eyelids and assholes and stuff, but it's like, it's the stuff, the realm we work in, people are actually interested about that. So it's like, let go of your ego that what you have to show is polished. It will be messy, what you show, but that's totally fine. And as a result of that, you build a stronger bond with people because they're dealing with the same problems that you are. And like, you know, you may pick up something from them and they may pick up from you that helps you get through there and make the perfect sausage, basically. A couple of examples I've got of these. These were both under NDA, these bits of work. So I was doing a big final debrief for a huge financial services client. And it was like, okay, you know, I need to map this out. And it's like, I can't show you the deck. I can't show you any of the screens because they'd go spare. We'd get in loads of trouble. But I was mapping out a presentation. And like literally all that is squares on a page with my notes on it. And you know, it didn't go viral, but it got 18 retweets and 50 odd likes, and for just a plain bit of paper with some boxes on it, I think that's pretty good engagement, right? Likewise, this thing here, we filmed a sketch note video. We filmed doing a sketch note video, which was for another top secret sort of vision piece for a client that they were presenting internally to their board. And it's like, we're going to do all this cool stuff. We couldn't show that. There's no way I can show that publicly. But what we did show is process shots of us doing it. And this proved it because we had lots of queries come in. I had lots of queries on Twitter saying like, what kind of cameras and stands and stuff are you using? And that didn't even occur to me that people would be interested in that. But it's another opportunity to talk about your process because there's something there that's interesting. And even if you don't want to share it, just take more photos of what you do. You can document your scraps, your ideas, your drafts, your challenges, your stories and your references, notes, inspiration, snippets of code if that's what you do. All of this stuff, it helps us build up. And then you've got stuff to go back to and reflect on, how could I do differently and everything like that. I just don't have the time. This is always a classic. Like I said, we live busy lives. It's like, you know, at Foolproof we get asked to tweet stuff and people are like, well, I haven't got time to do that because I'm busy doing work and I've got a deadline and stuff like this, right? It's like, can anybody tell me what that is? Quickly, by any chance?
Pencil and board.
You're told you earlier. Right. This is a visual diary from the Somme, the Battle of the Somme, right? Just some facts about the Somme. There was 58,000 British casualties on day one. 20,000 people died on day one. In the first week, they had 1.7 million shells dropped on them. They got gassed. They got weird diseases and trench foot and stuff. They got shell shocked. By the end of it, 1.3 million people had died. In 141 days, we advanced 6 miles, right? That sounds pretty busy, yeah? They still shared stuff, and you work for a tech company in Norwich, right? So it's time to get some perspective on things. You ain't too busy to take a picture and Instagram it. That letter had to be flown by carrier pigeon from Belgium, wherever, to bloody some little village in up north or whatever, you know? So it's about priorities. It's like, if you do actually want to share it, you'll find the time, and it's worth it. So the same people that tell me they're too busy to share stuff, they've got a face, which is great. They'll take selfies. Unless you're that woman, that was on Oprah Winfrey where she got her face torn off by a friend's chimp. She's got a story to tell, right? So I'll let her take selfies. But everybody else, it's all right. You've got a face. Most people do have. You eat food, wicked. So does every other living creature on earth. These are one of my favourites, like a pint of beer. You're able to queue for a short period of time before performing a really basic transaction. Well done, mate. Well done. And don't even get me started on kids. I'm sure they're good to you. I'm sure they're very good for you. I'm not really too fussed. About seeing what little Jimmy's up to. I'm not. Why wouldn't he? So what is it you actually do? Right? That's what I'm interested in. Even if you capture just one thing a day, in a month you'll have 30 things, in a year you'll have 365 things. And if you post it on Twitter, I use Twitter, it's called, the word flow, it's like, this is like your daily scrapbook of things you've been working on and the ideas that you've had. And I've colour coded them because once you've got enough of that stuff, you can go back and reflect on it. Sorry, it's a bit slow. and kind of think, like, where have I been talking about UX, or where have I been talking about sketching, or where have I been talking about this? And you've got that track record. It's been like an online diary, and you've also been sharing stuff out loud. And this kind of stuff here is when you start reflecting on things, that helps you build longer term content. So whether it's a talk, for example, or something else. I've got this example here. Ages ago in my lunch break, I took about 10 minutes to draw this thing. I was like, right, I'm in UX, I do sketching, so when do I sketch in UX? So I just literally do these quick doodles. And that went down pretty well, so I thought, oh, there's something there. So, you know, a little while later, I was like, okay, that's going well. And having a little think about it, because I'd shared it, you know, you're consciously making a decision to think about it and put it out there. So I went back to it, and then I thought, okay, that's all very good, but that just says I do quick concepts. So what does that mean? And I went through, did a thread, and added just a couple of lines of extra context about what each of those different elements were. And then again, after a while, that went down well. So I wrote a blog, and I'd never written a blog before. And I wrote this article, turning each of those 7 things into a chapter of the blog, so to speak. Stuck it on Medium. It got picked up by this publication called UX Planet. Got tweeted out and LinkedIn. You know, people sharing it. Eventually, it got picked up by InVision and Marvel App, who are 2 of the biggest software providers in UX, and they wanted to publish it on their blog. And I don't know the exact numbers. I've had 13,500 people read it just on mine. And given the fact that InVision and Marvel have pumped it out, I'm pretty confident saying 40 to 50,000 people at least have read it. And it's like that came from drawing a little doodle in my lunch break because I was just like, I'm thinking about this, and it led on to that. And now people think I'm some kind of expert on sketching and UX, which I may or may not be, but it helped me, you know, do that, and it's brought me a lot of awareness and a lot of sort of legitimacy, so to speak. All this stuff helps create a library of you, and it's like, this is useful for you anyway, even if you don't necessarily share it. It's good to have this, you know, I've got notebooks piled at home and things like that, and it's like I said, like if the aliens come, there's a stash of stuff there that's captured my ideas. But you have to be patient. This is what also people are up for, like instant thrills. This was you yesterday, actually, Pete. Wasn't it? Like, oh, I put something on Twitter and no one liked it. It's like, no, it takes time, right? It's not, you go, ta-da, here we go. Oh, there's this new legend in town. It takes a while. Right? You're not actually going to go viral, right? And do you want to? Because I don't really want to go viral because you just get loads of dickheads and Nazis and racists and stuff giving you hassle because they pick on everything these days. But it's like, keep contributing and it will click eventually, and you'll find a community of like-minded people that you can chat to. So, you know, the sketch notes and UX communities, I'm well involved with them, and they're a good bunch of people. I can more or less go anywhere in the world and have someone to hang out with and have a pint with and say hello and share ideas with. So, this one, yeah, I'm not a creative. No one cares what I do. Like I said, I think this is a real shame. Creativity is a muscle that needs to be exercised like any other, and it's like the more you do, the easier it gets, and the more it's like, okay, it's having that confidence to put something down on paper and actually get it out there. We all solve problems every day, even if you're, you know, I used to work in a call centre for a long time, and it's like, even if you're that, you're still solving problems every day, and you've got ideas on how things can improve and stuff like that, and it's like, can't the world be a slightly nicer place if we all just help each other solve those problems? That's, you know, without wanting to be all hippie about it, that's kind of my point of all of this. It's like, the world will be better if we help each other out. And also, if you're not a creative, then there's way more people out there that don't consider themselves creative than there are designers that you can talk this stuff about. So at Foolproof, we're known as a design agency, but actually, you know, we've got client services, we've got design elements, we've got research elements, project management, leadership, development, strategy, and front of house. And even like front of house, right? They're the receptionists, and that could be looked down upon, but they're way better at their job. You know, they're pros at that. They know how to greet people, how to take them through the space we've got in the office, how to deliver like the coffee at the right time, how to get the right food for the clients, when to bring the menus in, and stuff like that. I wouldn't do that. I don't know how to do that. So if we got them to share, this is kind of like my plan for 2008, is not only for Foolproof to be known as leaders in design, but it's to be known as just leaders of being an agency. Here's all the top tips we can do, and you know, got little plans to work that one out. And anyway, like, I'm pretty lucky that Foolproof support me, but what I have learned, because I've been made redundant at short notice, I've been sacked from jobs, you know, you never know what's going to happen, but actually the only job you have in life is working for you. I could be at Foolproof for another 10 years, I could be there for another 1 week because something happens and they run out. Do you know what I mean? It's like, there's no preparing for it. So, but I'm fairly confident that given that I've got a visible record of the things I've done, it will be relatively easy to find a job somewhere else, if you know what I mean. It's like you're working for yourself the whole time. Oh. Oh. Shit. There you go. And also, we're coming back to this like creative thing. Common sense is actually not so common. When I do my sketch note workshops, it's like, you know, I've prepared them and I've run through them, but I'll go off on little tangents, and then somebody at the end of it will be like, that one sentence that you didn't even mean to say or plan, and you just went on, that really resonated with me. And that's what, without putting it out there, you'll never know. Somebody somewhere will connect with it. Insight that you take for granted might really, really help someone out and change their day or the way they work, and that's kind of, but you won't know if you keep it to yourself. And like learning and teaching, it's the same thing. Like, in order to do this, I had to learn about it, and now I'm teaching it, but that's, like I said right at the very start, that's still part of the learning process. It's a continual loop. You know, it's super beneficial. It helps you construct your thoughts, and in some ways, and you know, put a structure to your thing. Like writing that blog, I had to think about that and construct it, so I learned more about doing it. I'm better at sketching for UX now because I wrote something than I would have been had I just carried on drawing as I was, because I had to formulate like an approach and a process. And it doesn't have to be public speaking, although that's really good. It could be, you know, like a blog, a how-to guide, a video, podcast, whatever, a step-by-step thing. I also think it's important that if you can give it away for free, do. I made a sketch note like cheat sheet thing ages ago, which would give people basic steps on how to do it. And I'll pump that out, and it's like, that could be useful to somebody if they're looking to get into it. I could probably charge some money for that, but it's like, actually, I drew it anyway for myself. So it's kind of like, if you set out to make money with it, then fair enough, go for it. But if it's something, like I said, going back and reflecting on your flow and your stock, if you've got something in there that might be useful, just share it, because the time's sort of gone. That's probably why I'll never be a millionaire, but it's like, anyway. And good old Zam, I was quite pleased when I found him. Just say yes to stuff, like exactly like Phil did the other day on Twitter when we hassled him. He's been interested in speaking, and kind of like, he's like, right, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, so he did it. If you like something, have a go at it. And it's like I said, it's kind of like, don't be afraid that you're going to be an amateur at it, because that's a good thing. People are obsessed, I think some people are obsessed with moving up like the ladder in their career, and I'm not really interested in that. My girlfriend calls me a horizontal burrower, because I'm just like, what's this? Oh, I'll go have a go at this. I'll be a bit crap at it, but that's cool. I'll find out what it's like, and then I'll go over here and I'll have a look over here. And it's like, ultimately, when I look back on it, I want it to be, by the time I die, that I wrote a book, whether it was good or bad. I released a 7-inch record, whether it was good or bad, and I released a comic book, whether it was good or bad. And like, that's more interesting to me than, yes, they go to pay rise and they go to boss people around and stuff like that. I'm not too fussed about that. And you like cool stuff, right? Your influences shape your outlook and approach to work, no matter what they are. So I like, you know, The Joker, I like weird bands, I like this stuff, sketchnoting, Jack the Ripper, I like history, I like Norfolk. It's kind of like, even if you don't create anything, you can still contribute to a discussion, because you can gather all this stuff. Museums and art galleries don't, an art gallery, the Louvre doesn't paint any paintings, right? But everybody knows they're a cool place to go to look at paintings, because they've got the right collection, they've created it successfully. It's like, it all makes it more human to see the process and who the person is that's doing it behind it. And especially think in tech, that's important, because a lot of the things we do are screens and stuff like that. And DJs, right? They're only ever as good as their record collection. They didn't make that music, but it comes back to that. It's a collaboration. They've taken this and they've taken that, and they've produced something new out of it, and they do well out of it. I kind of take this. I try and take this approach. It's like, share 60% of other people's stuff, because that's helping you build connections. 30% of your work, and then 10% of who you are and what you actually like, because it gives people that insight into your life. When you are sharing other people's work, there's a couple of things that, like, give credit where credit's due. If you like someone, tag them in the tweet, that you know, look for their name and tag them in the tweet, because that's important, especially to creative people. It raises awareness, and you know, people can instantly, no one's going to go searching for, oh, who did that picture, I'm going to go over it. People live busy lives and they're not going to do it. So just say it, so it clicks straight through. Say thank you to people, please, and thank you, I think, is still one of the most important skills in the world. I seem to do it right out of it. Ask people nicely and say thank you when they do stuff for you. It's not even hard. And it goes a long way to building up these relationships. But just be careful about becoming human spam. I've got another mate who's got, like, he does marketing, but he just retweets all these, your 7 best tips to improve your SEO, right? And he doesn't put any of himself in there, and it could just be literally a bot just pumping them out. And it's like, I don't know what you're into. it just doesn't quite work. Show the evidence of the person behind the tweets, or whichever format you're doing on. And I don't know how to start. This guy's got no worries, he's off. So following his advice, not knowing how to start is the easiest one of all. It's, well, another one that says it, it's just fucking do it, really. It's like, make the step. So like, this is the challenge when I gave this talk at work. It's like, tomorrow at work, get to lunchtime, say, take a picture of whatever you're doing and tweet it out and say, I'm doing this, it's interesting because of this. And honestly, it will start to build up, and it will build up. Just keep doing that, like I said, one thing a day. Obituaries aren't about people dying. Paul Mo, whoever he was. But they're about the cool shit they did when they were alive. It's like, that's what I mean. I don't want my obituary to be, you know, oh, he made it to the top of this corporation or whatever. I want it to be like, oh, he had a record out, he did this and that, this and that. And maybe I won't hit them all, but it's like, it's something to consider. Coming back to the kind of hippiness, I think sharing is caring and spreading the love. It's like, let's help each other out. There's enough dickheads on social media these days that, like Trump and all that, has risen up. So they don't have any of these doubts or any of these qualms. They're just going, rah, 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 rah. And it's like, actually, what is the whole point of being a person on Earth? It is to connect with each other and try and help each other and further ideas and evolve, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know how to put it, because I'm not enough of a hippie. I stopped smoking weed years ago. But it's like that's the point. It's like, let's try and help each other out by sharing knowledge and evolving as a group. So, just to recap, I'm not good enough. Just learn out loud until you are. I'm not allowed. The opportunities are there. If you look around and find them, there's always opportunities to do that. I don't have the time. Share one thing a day and make it a habit. You're not creative. You really know something that can help others out, and don't know how to start. Just literally just start doing it. So you are going to die. We're all going to die, but hopefully somewhere in there was a little nugget that might help you make someone give a shit. So yeah, thank you very much.